Federal agents, open the door now.
Do you have a warrant? I'm an attorney. I know my rights. You cannot enter without a warrant.
Ma'am, we have authority under immigration enforcement. Open this door. We're coming in.
I'm a United States citizen. You have no authority here. Show me a warrant or leave my property.
What should have been a quiet Saturday morning in her suburban Dallas home turned into a constitutional nightmare. Jasmine Thornton, a 38-year-old civil rights attorney, woke up like any other weekend, unaware that her life was about to change in the most shocking way. At 8:30 a.m., sunlight streamed through her bedroom windows. She made coffee, settled on the couch in her Howard Law t-shirt, and reviewed case files for Monday's hearing. Her house was quiet, peaceful, the kind of morning where the biggest concern was mowing the lawn or running errands first. At 9:47 a.m., her doorbell camera detected motion. 4 men in tactical vests approached her front door. The patches on their vests read ICE in bold yellow letters. Immigration and Customs Enforcement at a private home on a Saturday morning. Jasmine froze, her instincts telling her something was wrong. The lead agent, Franklin Hatcher, rang the doorbell and immediately started pounding on the door. Bang, bang, bang. Jasmine jumped, heart racing. She walked to the door but didn't open it. Instead, she spoke through the closed door, her voice firm. "Who is it?" "Federal agents," Hatcher shouted. "Open the door now." Jasmine's mind raced. She was an attorney, a civil rights lawyer who had spent her career defending others against government overreach. She knew her rights. "Do you have a warrant?" "I know my rights. You cannot enter without a warrant." Hatcher's expression shifted from authoritative to annoyed. "Ma'am, we have authority under immigration enforcement. We received information that you're harboring undocumented individuals. Open this door, or we're coming in." Jasmine felt a surge of anger. She lived alone. No roommates, no family. This had to be a mistake, or worse, targeted harassment. "I'm a United States citizen. I live alone. Show me a warrant or leave my property," she said, her voice loud enough for the camera to record. The 3 other agents exchanged glances. Agent Elise Monroe, the only woman, shifted uncomfortably. Agent Tony Kim checked his phone. Agent Robert Fields, the largest of the group, moved closer to the doorframe. "We have credible information about illegal activity at this address," Hatcher said, his voice rising. "Step back from the door." "This is illegal," Jasmine shouted. "I'm recording everything. You're violating the 4th Amendment. The Supreme Court has been clear that immigration enforcement does not give you authority to enter a private residence without a warrant or exigent circumstances. You have neither." Hatcher nodded to Fields, who moved forward with a heavy metal ram. In one swift motion, the front door splintered under the force. Jasmine screamed as 4 armed agents poured into her home. "Get back," Hatcher shouted. Jasmine backed into her living room, phone in hand, recording video. "This is illegal entry. I did not consent. You have no warrant. I'm an attorney. I know my rights." "Hands where we can see them," Fields commanded, hand on his weapon. "My hands are up. I'm not resisting, but you need to know you're violating the 4th Amendment," Jasmine said, her voice steady despite fear. Monroe moved through the house, body camera rolling. Every room was ordinary. A neatly made bed, toiletries in the bathroom, a home office with law books. Nothing illegal, no other people living there. Kim checked Jasmine's identification. Driver's license, state bar card, passport. Everything proved she was a U.S. citizen and a licensed attorney. "We need you to sit down," Hatcher said. "I will not sit down in my own home while you illegally search it," Jasmine said, pacing, phone still recording. "You forced entry without a warrant. Every second you stay is another violation of my rights." Hatcher tried to maintain authority. We received credible information. Credible information isn't a warrant. Jasmine cut in. You have no probable cause, no consent. You are violating my Fourth Amendment rights right now. Neighbors were drawn to the commotion. Mr. Washington, an elderly black man next door, was on his phone. Across the street, a young Latina mother filmed on her phone, children wide-eyed behind her. Monroe emerged from the back of the house. House is clear, she said. No one else here. Hatcher's jaw tightened. The agents had forced their way into an innocent woman's home based on faulty information. We're going to need to verify your citizenship status, Hatcher said. My citizenship status? Jasmine shouted. I've shown you my passport, my driver's license, and my attorney license. What more verification do you need? Standard procedure, Hatcher muttered. There is no standard procedure that allows you to break into someone's home without a warrant. Jasmine's voice shook with rage. You know what is standard? The Fourth Amendment. Warrants. Due process. You violated every one of those. Kim spoke quietly on his phone, likely to a supervisor. The situation was deteriorating. The federal agents had come for a routine tip, but turned it into a public spectacle. Miss Thornton, Monroe said softly, trying to calm her. Upset. I'm a civil rights attorney. I spend my career defending people from exactly this kind of unconstitutional government action. And now it's happening to me. Yes, I'm upset, but I'm also documenting everything for the federal lawsuit I'll file the moment you leave. Jasmine said, her voice cutting through the tension. Hatcher finally made a decision. We're leaving. Kim, call a supervisor to meet us outside, he said, glancing at Jasmine. You'll receive documentation about this incident. I'll be receiving more than documentation, Jasmine said coldly. A full investigation, a formal apology, and eventually a substantial settlement. The agents left through the broken doorway, captured on the doorbell camera. Neighbors lingered on the sidewalk, recording the event. Mr. Washington approached Jasmine. Are you okay? I'm fine, she said, surveying her broken door, her expression a mix of controlled fury and resolve. But they just learned a very expensive lesson about the Fourth Amendment. Inside, she immediately backed up all recordings, including the doorbell footage, and began making calls. Her first call was to her colleague, Benjamin Clark, a federal civil rights attorney. Benjamin, I need you. Federal agents just broke into my home without a warrant. I have it all on video. I want to file within the week. Her second call was to the media. By evening, local stations ran headlines. Federal agents break into Dallas attorney's home without a warrant. Millions of views later, the doorbell footage went viral. Her third call was to her mother, who was angry, determined, and supportive. You sue them, baby. Every penny. Your father would be proud. Building the case wasn't easy. Benjamin and Jasmine spent months preparing. Jasmine Thornton versus United States ICE, Hatcher, Fields, Monroe, and Kim. The 63-page complaint alleged Fourth Amendment violations, illegal search and seizure, false detention, trespass, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Evidence was overwhelming. Doorbell camera footage captured Jasmine clearly stating she was a citizen, refusing consent, and explaining why the search was illegal. Body camera footage confirmed nothing illegal was found. The agents themselves recorded the mistakes they made. The government initially claimed qualified immunity and offered $75,000 to settle. Benjamin laughed. They think $75,000 will make this go away. They broke into a civil rights attorney's home on camera. The stage was set for trial. Jasmine Thornton had turned from defender to victim, armed with every tool she knew, every law she had memorized, and the full support of her community. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, Please hit that subscribe button. Stories like this need to be shared, and your support helps bring more truth to light. 14 months after that chaotic Saturday morning, the trial of Jasmine Thornton versus the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement and its agents began in a packed Dallas federal courtroom. The room was filled with attorneys, civil rights advocates, and neighbors who had followed Jasmine's story closely. They understood this case wasn't just about one woman's rights. It was about everyone's Fourth Amendment protections. Jasmine sat at the plaintiff's table, calm but determined. Her colleague, Benjamin Clark, organized the exhibits: doorbell footage, body camera recordings, photographs of her broken door, and documentation proving her citizenship and attorney license. Every piece of evidence meticulously labeled and ready. The courtroom buzzed as Hatcher, Fields, Monroe, and Kim sat on the defense side, flanked by government attorneys. They looked tense. They knew the footage could destroy their case, showing clearly that they had forced entry into the home of a U.S. citizen without a warrant. The judge called the court to order. Benjamin stood first to deliver opening statements. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," he began, "this is a case about a blatant violation of constitutional rights. On June 17, 2023, federal agents forced their way into the home of Jasmine Thornton, a civil rights attorney, without a warrant, without consent, and without probable cause. They detained her in her own living room and conducted an illegal search. The government's actions were not only unlawful, they were deliberate and reckless." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "Miss Thornton is here today, not just for herself, but for every American whose home could be violated by federal overreach. This case will show you that the Fourth Amendment matters, and violations have consequences." The government's opening statement painted a very different picture. Their attorney spoke of credible information and standard procedures for immigration enforcement. They argued the agents acted in good faith and had no malicious intent. But the jury's attention remained fixed on Jasmine, whose calm composure suggested she was ready to fight every claim. Jasmine took the stand the next day. She recounted the morning of June 17th in detail, her voice steady yet emotional. "I woke up, had coffee, and was reviewing case files," she said. "I didn't expect a visit. Then my doorbell camera detected motion. 4 men in tactical vests approached. I asked for a warrant. They said they had authority. I told them I was a U.S. citizen. I told them they were violating my Fourth Amendment rights. And they forced their way in anyway." The jury watched the doorbell footage as it played on the large screen. Every pound on the door, every shouted command, and every word from Jasmine was captured. Her voice echoed, even in the recording, "I'm an attorney. I know my rights. You cannot enter without a warrant." The most intense moment came when Benjamin called Hatcher to the stand. The courtroom went silent as the former ICE agent took the oath. "Mr. Hatcher," Benjamin began, "you led a team that broke into Ms. Thornton's home without a warrant. Is that correct?" Hatcher shifted uncomfortably. "Yes, based on the information we had." "Information from an anonymous tip?" Benjamin pressed. "Yes, but we believed it was credible." "Credible how?" Benjamin leaned in. "What made an anonymous phone call enough to violate the Fourth Amendment? You forced entry into the home of a U.S. citizen in her own living room with no warrant. Do you believe that was lawful?" Hatcher hesitated. He had no answer. The jury could see it on his face. Benjamin continued, "Ms. Thornton asked you repeatedly for a warrant, told you she was a U.S. citizen, and explained why your actions were unconstitutional. You proceeded anyway. Correct?" "Yes," Hatcher muttered. "Nothing more?" "No." The courtroom was tense. Every juror understood the gravity of the violation. Experts were called next. Professor Olivia Barnes, a constitutional law scholar, testified about the importance of the Fourth Amendment. The home receives the highest protection under the Constitution, she explained. Federal agents do not have a blank check for residential entry. Ms. Thornton's statements to the agents were correct. Their actions were unconstitutional. The government tried to argue that repairs to the broken door mitigated the situation. Benjamin destroyed that argument in closing statements. They fixed her door. Sure, but you cannot fix the violation of her constitutional rights. You cannot repair the terror she experienced or the violation of her privacy and dignity. That door, once broken, represents an irreparable damage to trust in government authority. Meanwhile, the emotional impact of the raid was highlighted. Jasmine described the trauma she felt, the fear of being falsely detained, the anger at watching her private space violated, and the knowledge that the government had ignored her rights. "I've spent my career teaching clients about the Fourth Amendment," she said. "I've told them how it protects them from the government. And now I had to experience it myself. That's a fear no one should endure." Jurors saw the body camera footage. Fields, Monroe, and Kim had recorded the search of her home, confirming what Jasmine had said. The house was empty, showing nothing illegal. Kim's phone call to a supervisor was heard. Negative on subjects. Yes, she's a citizen, attorney. Considerable damage to front door. Neighbors recording. Every detail supported Jasmine's claim. No warrant. No consent. No probable cause. The evidence was overwhelming, and the government's defense crumbled under cross-examination. During testimony, Benjamin made the case personal. He reminded jurors that federal agents are not above the law. "This is about accountability," he said. Jasmine Thornton represents the law, yet the very people tasked with enforcing it ignored it. They violated the rights of an American citizen, and they must be held responsible. Witnesses from the neighborhood testified about the chaos outside. Mr. Washington described how he saw neighbors filming, heard shouting, and called the police. The young Latina mother explained how her children were frightened by the raid. The jury could feel the disruption and the sense of terror experienced by someone simply living her life on a Saturday morning. The trial stretched over several days. Every exhibit, video clip, and testimony reinforced one fact. The federal agents acted illegally, recklessly, and without justification. Even the good faith defense was shredded. Finally, Benjamin summarized the case in closing arguments. "This isn't just about money," he said, pointing to Jasmine. "It's about rights. It's about the Constitution. Ms. Thornton is not asking for revenge. She's asking for justice. The Fourth Amendment exists so that Americans can feel safe in their homes. When the government violates that, there must be consequences. This verdict will send a clear message. No one is above the law." The jury deliberated for 11 hours over 2 days. They returned unanimous verdicts on all counts. The damages phase began immediately, with testimony about Jasmine's emotional trauma, professional impact, and loss of peace of mind. When the jury finally announced their decision, the courtroom erupted. The total award was $10.5 million, $4.2 million in compensatory damages, and $6.3 million in punitive damages designed to send a message to federal immigration enforcement. Jasmine broke down, tears streaming as she hugged Benjamin and her mother. The moment was more than financial. It was a validation of every right she had fought to protect. The verdict showed that the Constitution still mattered and that government overreach had serious consequences. Afterward, the federal agents involved were terminated. Hatcher faced criminal charges for deprivation of rights under color of law, eventually pleading guilty to a lesser charge and receiving probation. ICE announced comprehensive policy changes: mandatory warrants for residential entries, supervisor approval for home searches, and training on constitutional compliance. But Jasmine's victory went beyond policy. She used part of her settlement to create a legal defense fund for people whose Fourth Amendment rights were violated. She became a national voice, speaking at law schools and community forums, sharing her story to educate others. Her doorbell footage became a teaching tool, showing exactly how to assert rights against illegal government intrusion. Dallas would remember Jasmine Thornton's case as a landmark, a warning to federal agents and a reminder to every American that constitutional protections are real and enforceable. A single Saturday morning had changed the law, impacted federal enforcement, and empowered citizens to stand up for their rights. The aftermath of the raid left Jasmine Thornton with a shattered front door, a shaken sense of security, and a determination that burned hotter than ever. She spent the first days after the incident reviewing all recordings, making multiple backups, and planning her next steps. Every frame of video, every word she spoke to the agents, was potential evidence in what she knew would be a monumental legal battle. Her first call was to Benjamin Clark, her longtime colleague and experienced civil rights attorney. "Benjamin, I need you to represent me," she said, her voice steady but urgent. "Federal agents broke into my home without a warrant. I have it all recorded, doorbell footage, body cameras. I want to file a lawsuit within the week." Benjamin didn't hesitate. "Jasmine, we're going to hold them accountable. You're not just protecting yourself. You're setting a precedent for everyone." Her second call went to local media outlets. By evening, the story was everywhere. Television stations, online news portals, social media. The headlines were striking. Federal agents raid Dallas attorney's home without warrant. Civil rights lawyer records illegal ICE search. Within hours, millions of views had accumulated on her viral video. The footage clearly showed 4 armed federal agents forcing entry into her home, while Jasmine shouted about her constitutional rights. Her third call was to her mother, who responded with anger, determination, and tears. "You sue them, baby," her mother said. "Every penny. Stand up for yourself. Your father would be proud of you." That call gave Jasmine both comfort and fuel for the fight ahead. Over the next several months, Jasmine and Benjamin built their case meticulously. The official complaint, filed in federal court, was 63 pages long and included allegations against ICE and the individual agents: Franklin Hatcher, Robert Fields, Elise Monroe, and Tony Kim. Charges included violation of the Fourth Amendment, illegal search and seizure, false detention, trespass, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Every claim was backed by video evidence, photographs of property damage, and witness statements. The government initially attempted to dismiss the case using qualified immunity. They argued that the agents acted in good faith based on credible information and that the incident was a misunderstanding. They even offered a settlement of $75,000. Benjamin reviewed the offer and laughed. "They think $75,000 will cover a raid on a civil rights attorney's home, on camera, with clear Fourth Amendment violations." Absolutely not. Trial preparations continued. Jasmine meticulously reviewed her testimony, walking through every detail. Waking up, seeing the agents on her doorbell camera, asking for a warrant, asserting her rights, the door being rammed down, and the illegal search of her home. Each word mattered, and she practiced until it was precise, measured, and persuasive. On the first day of testimony, Jasmine described the raid to the jury with remarkable clarity. "I woke up, made coffee, and sat on my couch reviewing case files," she said. "Then I saw 4 men in tactical vests approach my door. I asked for a warrant. I told them I was a U.S. citizen. I told them they were violating my rights. They forced their way in anyway. I recorded every moment. I recited the Fourth Amendment to them as they searched my home. They ignored it completely." The jury watched the doorbell footage and body camera recordings in full. The video captured her yelling, "This is illegal entry. You have no warrant. I am an attorney. I know my rights." Every juror could see her courage and the agent's disregard for the law. Benjamin then called the first agent, Hatcher, to the stand. The exchange was tense, direct, and intense. "Mr. Hatcher, you entered Miss Thornton's home without a warrant?" Benjamin asked. "Yes, but we believe the tip was credible," Hatcher replied. "Based on an anonymous phone call?" "Yes." "Do you consider that enough to violate the Fourth Amendment?" Hatcher faltered. He had no answer. The jury could see his hesitation and the flaw in his reasoning. Benjamin pressed further, making the constitutional violation clear to every person in the courtroom. Experts were called next. Professor Olivia Barnes, a constitutional law scholar, testified. "The home is the most protected space under the Fourth Amendment. Federal agents do not have unchecked authority to enter without a warrant. Ms. Thornton was entirely correct in asserting her rights. The agents acted unlawfully." Even the government's own body camera footage reinforced Jasmine's testimony. Monroe and Kim had recorded every room, showing nothing illegal. Kim's phone call to his supervisor admitted. Negative on subjects. Yes, she's a citizen. Attorney. Considerable damage to front door. Neighbors recording. Benjamin delivered a powerful closing argument. "This case is about accountability," he said. "Federal agents violated the home of an American citizen. They ignored her knowledge, her warnings, and her constitutional rights. Ms. Thornton is not seeking revenge. She is asking for justice. No one is above the law." The jury deliberated for 11 hours over 2 days. Their verdict was unanimous. Jasmine Thornton had been illegally raided, detained, and had her rights violated. The damages phase began immediately, focusing on emotional trauma, professional impact, and loss of peace of mind. When the jury returned, the award was staggering: $10.5 million. $4.2 million in compensatory damages for emotional distress, constitutional violations, and loss of peace of mind. $6.3 million in punitive damages designed to send a clear message to federal immigration enforcement. Jasmine broke down crying, surrounded by Benjamin, her mother, colleagues, and community supporters. The victory was more than money. It was validation. The verdict sent a nationwide message. The Fourth Amendment matters, and federal overreach carries consequences. Following the verdict, all 4 agents were terminated. Hatcher faced criminal charges for deprivation of rights under color of law, eventually pleading guilty to a lesser charge and receiving probation. ICE implemented comprehensive policy changes, including mandatory warrant requirements for home entries, supervisor approval for searches, and constitutional compliance training. Jasmine used part of her settlement to establish a legal defense fund to represent individuals whose Fourth Amendment rights were violated. She began speaking at law schools, training sessions, and community forums about asserting rights against illegal government intrusion. Her doorbell footage became a teaching tool, demonstrating exactly how to record, assert, and protect constitutional rights. In Dallas, her case became a landmark. It reminded the public and government agencies that constitutional protections are real and enforceable. Jasmine's courage and knowledge turned a terrifying violation into a legal precedent, empowering Americans to defend their homes and rights. Even years later, the video remained widely referenced. Students, attorneys, and civil rights advocates studied her precise arguments and her calm, assertive handling of the raid. Jasmine's experience proved that standing firm in your doorway, refusing to back down, and knowing your rights could hold even federal agents accountable. The lasting impact went beyond Dallas. Legal scholars cited her case in law journals. Federal agencies revised training programs to prevent similar violations. Communities across the country referenced her story when educating citizens on how to assert rights against illegal searches. Through all this, Jasmine remained grounded. She continued practicing law, mentoring young attorneys, and advocating for civil rights. The $10.5 million verdict was significant.